Earlier this year, I made a video ranking every one of Barcelona's signings since the sale of Neymar for a world record-breaking €222 million in 2017. Barcelona's transfer business in the 4 years since that sale is widely considered to be one of the most reckless and idiotic periods of self-inflicted harm in the history of world football. But oddly enough, there was still a handful of really smart signings in there as well. A year after Barcelona sold Neymar to PSG, their biggest rivals Real Madrid sold arguably an even more important asset of their own in the form of Cristiano Ronaldo, in a €100 million deal with Juventus. Ronaldo is Real Madrid's all-time leading goalscorer, having scored a mind-boggling 450 goals in 438 games for Los Blancos, winning 15 trophies over the course of 9 seasons at the Santiago Bernabeu. Ronaldo is always going to be irreplaceable, and since his sale, Real Madrid have also lost the likes of Keylor Navas, Sergio Ramos, and Rafael Varane, beginning a rebuilding project in the Spanish capital. Whilst Barcelona's chaotic rebuild in recent years is almost universally regarded as having been a catastrophe, Real Madrid have some pretty severe financial problems all of their own, and they had 2 summers of significant investment following Ronaldo's departure. In today's video, I'm going to rank those signings from worst to best. Only permanent first-team signings are considered, which means no loans, no Real Madrid Castilla signings, and no La Fabrica youth recruits or graduates. Without further ado then, here is how I would rank every Real Madrid signing since the sale of the club's all-time record goalscorer in 2018. 13th, Eden Hazard. As I typically point out in the introduction, but is probably already pointedly obvious by this stage in this video, I am ranking these players for their quality as signings and not as footballers. Otherwise, Eden Hazard probably would have come out on top. Without doubt one of the most gifted footballers of the last 20 to 25 years, Hazard was practically born a superstar, guiding Lille to an unlikely Ligue 1 title win and winning the division's Player of the Year award while still in his teens. He won that award for a second time the season before he left Lille, choosing to join Chelsea in the summer of 2012 over Manchester United. Over the course of 7 seasons, Hazard became one of Chelsea's greatest players of all time. Hence, why he was able to command a €100 million transfer fee, with the potential to rise to €146.1 million, even at the age of 28. To justify that fee, Hazard would have had to have given Real Madrid 4 years of absolutely vintage football at a minimum, inspiring them to at least a couple of major trophies. In truth, the Belgians' dream move rapidly became a nightmare, plagued by injuries and a constant wait for the real Eden Hazard to please stand up. Hazard has just 5 goals and 9 assists from 51 appearances for Real Madrid, and given his transfer fee, £400,000 a week wages, and virtually non-existent sell-on fee, I think he has to go down as Real Madrid's worst post-Ronaldo signing, and among the worst at any club this millennium. 12th, LUKA Jovic. Another very costly Real Madrid recruit, I must admit that I always had my doubts about the signing of LUKA Jovic. It's not so much that I didn't think he was capable of playing for Real Madrid, though certainly that does appear to be the case now, it was just that I couldn't really see where he would fit in, and he didn't really seem like a Real Madrid player at all. Jovic was lethal for Eintracht Frankfurt in the season before he signed for Madrid, scoring 27 goals in 48 games, as the most prolific member of a terrific attacking triad. But Jovic played predominantly as a poacher, sniffing out chances and bearing the ball with some excellent first-time finishes. After his €60 million move to Real Madrid, Jovic was limited to cameo appearances off the bench, he picked up a few niggling injuries, and former boss Zinedine Zidane never seemed to have too much faith in him. In truth, the move has been a disaster from start to finish, and Jovic even struggled to score goals back on loan in the Bundesliga last season, meaning Los Blancos may struggle to recoup much of that €60 million. So far this season, Jovic has gone 6 games without a goal, extending his total Real Madrid goal drought to 15 games. 11th, Mariano Diaz. Neither Mariano Diaz nor LUKA Jovic should really still be at Real Madrid, and if the club wasn't quite so laden with debt, one suspects they wouldn't be. As with Jovic, Mariano is someone who can score goals, as he proved during his single season at Lyon. First signed by Real Madrid as a teenager in 2012, Mariano joined Lyon for €8 million in the summer of 2017. But after 21 goals in 45 games, Real Madrid triggered their buyback clause, bringing him back to the Bernabeu for a fee of €23 million. It's only his smaller transfer fee and lesser wages that put Mariano ahead of JOVIC in these rankings, since he only managed 1 goal in 21 games for Real Madrid last season, and he is yet to play a game this season. Real Madrid are reported to have done absolutely everything in their power to try and get rid of Mariano over the summer, but he is unperturbed by his lack of game time, and no one else will offer him the kind of money that he earns in Madrid. In recent days, Newcastle United have been linked with the 28-year-old, which would be music to Real Madrid's ears if they were able to recoup any kind of a transfer fee. 10th, Alberto SORO. With most of these signings, I'm ranking them based on how much they cost, what Real Madrid got or are likely to get in return on the pitch, and either their realised or potential sell-on value. I can't really rank Alberto SORO on the second of those three, that is to say, what Real Madrid got in return on the pitch, given that he never actually played for the club. SORO was signed by Real Madrid following his breakout campaign in the Segunda Division with Zaragoza in 2019, for a fee of €2.5 million, with the potential to rise to €5 million, subject to add-ons. He immediately went back out on loan to Zaragoza, but following that single season back on loan with his boyhood club, Real Madrid sold the youngster for the same €2.5 million that they had signed him for to Granada. That means that, well, there isn't really much to go on, aside from SORO probably costing the club a bit in admin fees and time, so he takes 10th. 9th, Reinier. Probably the most difficult signing to rank in this list, Reinier Jesus is still only 19 years old, and it is far from impossible that he could really click into action next season and look like a fantastic signing. He showed enormous promise at Flamengo as a 17-year-old, where he scored 6 goals in 15 games from attacking midfield. And, in truth, his development almost certainly would have been best served by spending at least another season or so in Brazil. That is not how things work in football these days, unfortunately, and Reinier was snapped up by Real Madrid for €30 million in January 2020. Reinier has spent the last 14 months on loan at Borussia Dortmund, where, as of yet, he has made a limited impact across his 23 appearances, most of which have come off the bench. The reality is that it is much too early to tell, but as things stand, Reinier comes in at 9th, and I think it's quite likely that even if he is to become a star, it won't be at Real Madrid. 8th, Brahim Diaz. If this list were based solely on a player's performances for Real Madrid, Brahim Diaz would be close to the foot of it. Signed by Los Blancos for €17 million, with the potential to rise to €24 million, as his contract dwindled towards its end at Manchester City, 2 years on from his arrival, Diaz has still only made 21 appearances for Real Madrid. Described as having played more Fortnite than football in Madrid by goal, Diaz was sent out on loan to AC Milan at the start of last season. Following a slow start, the gifted Spaniard, who was very highly regarded by Pep Guardiola, began to find his feet. The loan was extended for another season over the summer for €3.5 million, and following an excellent start to the season, Milan are rumoured to already have inquired about signing Diaz on a permanent basis. The 22-year-old takes 8th because, despite doing virtually nothing for Madrid, he will either return to the club and be in first-team contention next season or, and I think more likely, be sold for a decent profit. 7th, Rodrigo. Another tricky Brazilian who is difficult to fully assess at this early stage. Rather like Reinier, Rodrigo has certainly shown evidence to suggest that he has what it takes to make it at Real Madrid. Brought to the Bernabeu for €45 million from Santos in 2019, Rodrigo had already played a remarkable 80 games for the Brazilian Giants, despite the fact that he was still only 18. His first season in Madrid was arguably his brightest, as he scored the second fastest debut goal in the history of Real Madrid, bettered only by his compatriot, the Brazilian legend Ronaldo. Technically superb, there was talk of Rodrigo being sold in the summer, but his versatility is invaluable to a frequently chopped and changed Real Madrid forward line. Rodrigo's Real Madrid future could be one of stardom or one of a 2022 summer sale following Kylian Mbappe's arrival. He is equally capable of both, hence his spot in 7th. 6th. Eder Militao. You might be sensing a distinctly Brazilian theme that has dominated Real Madrid's transfer strategy in recent years, and it would be fair to say that it has heralded mixed results. Eder Militao was certainly an outstanding signing by FC Porto, who turned a more than €45 million profit on the centre-back in less than 12 months. Militao made his name with Sao Paulo before his move to Portugal, and Real Madrid were clearly very impressed by his first season of European football. I don't think that he was a €50 million centre-back when Real Madrid signed him, but there is no doubt that he has grown as a player since then, now arguably Carlo Ancelotti's first choice centre-back, and he is still only 23. In the long run, I suspect Militao will be viewed as a very solid signing for Real Madrid, and for that reason, he comes in 6th. 5th. David Alaba. Talking of solid signings, David Alaba looks to have been just that for Real Madrid this season. Sometimes people consider free transfers to be absolute no-brainers, due to the lack of a transfer fee. But it's not quite that simple. Just ask Arsenal fans how signing Willian went for them. David Alaba is a wonderful footballer to sign on a free, but at the end of the 5-year deal that he has signed with Real Madrid, by which stage he will be 34 years old, Alaba will have received €115 million in wages, which, isn't quite so free. Nonetheless, I think that it was vital that Real Madrid added some strength and experience to their backline this summer, following the departures of Sergio Ramos and Rafael Varane, and Alaba brings both in abundance. Equally adept at left-back or centre-back, Alaba is one of the most complete fullbacks in world football, and he has slotted seamlessly into the Real Madrid starting 11 in both positions so far this season. 4th. FERLAND MENDY. A man whose injuries this season have seen David Alaba revert to fullback on such a frequent basis, it will be interesting to see how Carlo Ancelotti rejigs his back line once Ferland Mendy is back in action. The Frenchman, who is the cousin of Chelsea goalkeeper Eduardo Mendy, joined Real Madrid in the summer of 2019 for an initial €48 million, potentially rising to €53 million, subject to add-ons. That is a lot of money, but it's also just about the going rate for in-demand fullbacks these days. The key is signing the right ones. Mendy is very good, and at 26, he still has a lot of football left in him. There is a potential conflict looming between Mendy, who wants a pay rise, and Real Madrid, who don't want to give him one due to their financial crisis. But assuming that can be resolved and Mendy returns to action and can stay fit, I think he has to go down as one of Florentino Perez's side's better pieces of post-Ronaldo business. 3rd. Eduardo Camavinga. It is very early days with regards to this one. Too early, some might suggest, to be calling him Real Madrid's third best signing since 2018. But I like Eduardo Camavinga a lot. Another Frenchman, Camavinga broke through incredibly young at Rennes, aged only 16. But immediately, he looked both physically and mentally capable of competing with men. At times, Camavinga played in both a holding or a more advanced position in Ligue 1, exhibiting his maturity and range of skills both off and on the ball. Given his age, attitude, and, quite frankly, terrifying potential, a fee of somewhere in the region of €35 million in this day and age seems like a terrific bargain to me. 2nd. Vinicius Jr. It must be said, when considering the likes of Heinier and Rodrigo's rankings, that had you asked me to make this video just 12 months ago, it is unlikely that Vinicius Jr. would have come in second. The former Flamengo star, who joined Real Madrid during the same summer that Cristiano Ronaldo departed, has always been an immense talent. A joy to watch with the ball at his feet, Vinicius is an almost archetypal Brazilian flair player. But during his first 3 seasons at the Bernabeu, his end product could sometimes be a little lacking. That is unsurprising, given that he is still only 21 years old now. But that certainly hasn't been the case at the start of this season. Vinicius has scored 5 goals in 8 La Liga appearances for Real Madrid so far this season, which puts him 3rd in the division's scoring charts, as well as chipping in with a couple of assists. Vinicius has always had the talent, and if this is a sign of things to come, in terms of him becoming a more efficient and complete footballer, Real Madrid have one hell of a player on their hands. It is worth noting that Vinicius did not come cheap, setting Real Madrid back €46 million, which made him the second most expensive Brazilian footballer behind Neymar in the world at the time. He was just 18 when he made that move, and I suspect it would take a lot more money than that for Real Madrid to sell him next summer, if he can keep developing this season and maintain his current form. First place, THIBAUT Courtois. I am always happy to hold my hands up and say I got something wrong on this channel, and THIBAUT Courtois might be one such case. I don't think Courtois was as good at Chelsea as some people seem to believe that he was, and to be quite honest, I wasn't entirely convinced that he was all that much of an upgrade over Keylor Navas for Real Madrid. In fairness, during his first season at the Bernabeu, I was proved emphatically right. Courtois had a pretty torrid campaign, laden with errors during a season in which Los Blancos conceded 11 league goals more than Getafe. Since then, it has to be said, the Belgian has been superb. Second only to Karim Benzema in importance to Real Madrid at times, I still think Keylor Navas is on a similar level to him, but Courtois is 5 years younger and much more physically imposing. For a fee of £35 million, Real Madrid signed one of the best goalkeepers in the world, and in spite of a choppy first season, shall we say, he is now one of the club's star men and the most important player to them of any in this list. All things considered, and until one of Rodrigo, Vinicius or Camavinga reaches true stardom, I think he has to take top spot. So that is it for today's video, but thank you all very much as ever for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on for HITC Sevens. You can also find me on social media, on Twitter or Instagram by the username at HITC Sevens on both, should you wish to do so.